Let's make some more noise, come on. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this day for 25 months of building through the pandemic, and it is absolutely amazing to see everyone here in person. What words come to mind when you think of Marin and Sonoma counties? My clicker, 1 second here. There we go, that's what I meant to do. Wine country, farm to table, beautiful coastline, scenery, the great outdoors, mountain biking, trails. What about startups, entrepreneurship, innovation? Where do those rank on your list? My guess is probably not that high. And what I want to talk about today is that has much more to do with perception and awareness than it has anything to do with objective reality. About 2 years ago, I embarked on a little research project. Hold, please. We're working through the technical difficulties on number 1 here. I embarked on a little research project, and I said, let's suppose that Marin and Sonoma County are 750,000 person, 2-county area. Let's pretend that was the 51st US state. And I looked at how would that hypothetical state compare to the other 50 states in terms of its economic footprint? So I looked at population, right? 750,000 people, we'd be 49th in 48th in terms of population, greater than 3 US states. Okay, not bad. I then looked at our GDP, almost $50 billion of GDP between these 2 counties. Actually greater than the states of Wyoming and Vermont, which is nothing to sneeze at. But still, nothing that puts us in the upper echelon. What about startup footprint? I went back and I looked at the number of startups born in these 2 counties last decade, and I looked at how many of those startups raised $1 million or more in equity financing, which I said will hold as a proxy for a quality startup company. When I did that, the results absolutely blew me away. I found that Marin and Sonoma County was home to more quality startups formed here last decade than half of US states on an absolute basis. And when you look at it on a per capita basis, we would have been home to more quality startups than almost every state other than 2 others, California as a whole and the state of Massachusetts. That is the objective reality, is that we are startup rich here. Regions around the country, around the world would kill to have the startup footprint we have across these 2 counties. Yet as a community, we don't fully appreciate it. We don't recognize it. It's not the first thing that comes to mind when we think about who we are as a community. We are taking steps through this movement to begin changing that. In 2015, I first came to this community to take a job at a company called Glassdoor. And Glassdoor is one of the most successful startup companies to be born in the North Bay over the last 15 years. Last decade, it ended up employing hundreds of employees here in Marin County, and in 2018, it achieved a $1.2 billion exit, a highly successful venture. I was living in San Francisco at the time, doing the reverse commute to the North Bay with my wife, who also had a job up here, and we fell in love with this community. After work, we'd go up Mount Tam for hikes, we'd go up to El Dorado Kitchen in Sonoma, our favorite restaurant. We'd go out for drinks in Sausalito. Mind you, this was pre-kids when we actually did these types of things. But through it all, we knew we wanted to put down firm roots in this community. So in 2016, we bought a home in Corte Madera. My wife, Valerie, now runs a local law firm in San Rafael, and we have 2 boys, Nat and Noah, under the age of 5, which keeps us just a little busy. But a funny thing happened when I moved up here, is I would meet people who were also new arrivals to our community. And I'd meet people who were 2nd, 3rd, 4th generation Sonomans and Marinites. And I would have the same conversation, it seemed, over and over again. People would say to me, Zach, you're living the dream. I wish I could work at a high-growth, quality startup company in the North Bay. How do I do it? And I wouldn't be exaggerating if I told you this conversation happened 300 times. And the truth was I was living the dream. I was going to work every day in this beautiful setting on Richardson Bay. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. With San Francisco becoming the hub for startups and technology last decade in place of Palo Alto, for the first time in our community's history, we were commutable into the greatest hub for startups and innovation the world had ever known. That drastically changed who moved to this community, and while it did that, it increased the amount of intellectual capital into the North Bay, coupled with the already rich intellectual capital we already had with folks living here. That was a game changer for us as a community. Yet, despite that influx of intellectual capital, we did not have a very developed startup ecosystem, right? We have some of the most talented entrepreneurs anywhere in the world living here in this community. Yet they were more likely to put their companies in San Francisco or Oakland than they were to build in our own community. And the ones who were building here, they were disconnected. They were operating largely on an island. They did not know each other. From a mentorship standpoint, we have titans of global industry who've conquered global industry living in this community. Yet they're more likely to lend that intellectual capital to a startup in San Francisco, New York, or London than they are to a fledgling startup company in downtown Santa Rosa or downtown San Rafael. Capital? I mean, these are the two of the most affluent counties in the entire country. Yet no pooled capital dedicated to this region. And folks are more likely to invest elsewhere, and what that really has meant for the community is that our startup companies are undercapitalized relative to peer companies in Silicon Valley. And from a community standpoint, if you wanted to find your tribe, if you wanted to see who in your community is interested in entrepreneurship, startups, innovation, technology, building innovative companies, you didn't know where to turn. That was the inspiration behind Marin Sonoma Impact Ventures. Our mission is to help local founders who want to build that next great North Bay company and help make sure that they're successful. So if you want to build the next Keysight Technologies or Amy's Kitchen or Athleta or BioMarin or RH or Glassdoor or Autodesk, if you want to build that next iconic Marin Sonoma company, we want to help make your journey just a little easier. We want to harness the full intellectual, financial capital that's so prevalent in our community to get behind you to make sure you do it. 2 years in, how are we doing? Well, we've built a first-of-its-kind North Bay founder network. There are now over 110 local founder CEOs of young startup companies who are participating as part of our network. They want to meet each other, and they want to meet others in their community. From a mentorship standpoint, we've built an executive network. We now have 38 local C-level executives who are leaning in to lend that intellectual capital to these local startups. From a capital standpoint, in October, we launched the first ever regional venture capital fund focused entirely on making investments into local startup companies. For the first time in our community's history, we now have pooled capital and professional management that has a fiduciary responsibility to deploy that capital into this region's most promising entrepreneurs. And from a community standpoint, we're convening. We're putting on events like North Bay Next so that you do have a place to go, and so that we're uniting, and so that we're able to give everyone a great place to be on these topics. But despite all those accomplishments, the coolest part about all this is that today really is day one. Because we're all here, right? Our community's future will never look like its past because this movement is happening. It's real, it's palpable, and we're all here participating in it. I want to talk a little bit about our culture, though, about who we are as a community. Because as you know, if you're building a startup company, culture has so much to do with if you're going to get to where you're going. It's the same for us as a community. Who are we as a community? We're a give-first community. What that means is participants in this community show up to gatherings, engage with others, not with the mindset of what's in it for me, how can I extract value out of the people that are here. But if we all show up saying, what can I give? How can I help someone else who is here? We're going to be unstoppable, because if we're all lending that support, we're all going to get to where we're going a lot more quickly, and we're going to be that much more likely to be successful. 2, we're building something that is uniquely North Bay. We are not building Silicon Valley North, and that is not meant to be a dig at Silicon Valley. What that means is we're building a startup community that is a mirror of who we are as an overall community. It means we're collaborative. It means we have a no jerks rule. It means our startup companies being formed here are good corporate citizens that care about the planet, care about the communities they're operating in. We're building something that is a reflection of who we want to be, and every person in this room has the ability to shape what it means to be uniquely North Bay. And the last piece is we're building an inclusive community. And yes, that means it's a community for people of all backgrounds, races, ethnic backgrounds, genders, sexual orientation. That goes without saying. But what an inclusive community also means is we're not just building a community for tech startups. We're building a community for startup companies in all industries, across all verticals. We have startups operating, working as part of this community that are backed by some of the most prominent venture capital investors anywhere on the planet. And we have startups engaging that are bootstrapped. We want all of them, all have a role to play. There is no excluding a certain business type. If you are genuine about building a local startup here, we want you involved. And we have an open door to make sure that happens. Zooming out for a second, let's just talk about why this matters. Why does having a robust startup community matter for the overall North Bay community? It's not just about the people in this room. If we're successful with this movement in achieving this vision, we are going to make this community much brighter, our future much brighter for our children. Marin County, where we are sitting here today, is actually the oldest county in the state of California. Sonoma County is the second oldest Bay Area county right behind Marin. What we need to do is create high-quality, new economy jobs here in the community so that young people actually want to live here, so that we have residents between the ages of 18 and 35. That is part of having a vibrant community, and that is one reason why this matters. The second piece is the environment. Last year, I grabbed a coffee with one of Sonoma County's most prominent environmental leaders. And we were chatting, and I was walking him through all we were doing to help spur local job creation. And he was so excited. And finally, I interrupted him, and I said, "Why is this so interesting to you? Why does job creation matter so much?" And he said to me, "Don't you get it?" And I said, "Clearly I don't. Please enlighten me." And he said, I'll never forget this. He said, "The only ecological future we have that is sound is one where hyper-local job opportunities and hyperlocal jobs are part of every community we have." So what this is about is it's about giving the woman in Petaluma a job in Petaluma. It's about giving that man in Fairfax a job in Fairfax, right? That's good for their quality of life. It's good for their local community. It takes them off the 101, which is good for our planet. It's good for traffic. It is a win-win with no negative externalities. Local jobs are crucial. But we're not doing that great on job creation. The North Bay is actually a laggard in terms of regions around the state in terms of job creation. So that is exactly what we want to change. And if we want to create jobs in Roseland, my point is, let's put 10 high-growth startup companies in downtown Santa Rosa. If we want to create jobs in the Canal, let's put 10 high-growth startup companies in downtown San Rafael. Local jobs beget other local jobs and are a key driver in making sure there are opportunities at all ends of the socioeconomic spectrum, and it's also a key driver in making sure that our downtowns are thriving, that retail is thriving. They're all connected, and we have that chance here. Because look at where we are. What COVID has done is it's reset everything. And for us as a community, it means that if you're a Sebastopol or a Mill Valley-based startup founder, the reason for you to put your company in San Francisco in 2022 is essentially zero. That is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us as a community to say, we want you to build, and we want you to build here, embedded in our community, and we want to help. That is the opportunity in front of us that we all have the ability to impact. So what can you do? Well, 4 quick things. If you're an entrepreneur, build a local company. Don't build nowhere. Don't build in the city. Build here. Be one of, a bunch of companies who are leading the charge and paving this next generation of prosperity in the community. If you've always wanted to launch that company, take the plunge. I can't guarantee that you'll be successful, but I can guarantee that we and this growing community will make your journey just a little less lonely. 2, if you have something to give back, mentor, guide. Make an introduction. If you have capital, invest in a local startup company. 3rd, work local. A lot of people in this room might be working for startup companies based globally, based nowhere, based all over the world. Lend your intellectual capital to a local startup company that could use your help. Work for a company that's embedded in your community. And the last, show up. You've already taken that first step. We're all here today, which is pretty amazing. So keep showing up and keep convincing others in this community to show up with you. This picture right here was from March the 2nd. We had our first in-person gathering here at MSIV. We had 50 people show up to Brewster's in Petaluma, Brewster's Beer Garden. 30 founders, 20 mentors. It was an incredible afternoon. The first time we did something like this, that was day 0. As I mentioned, today is day 1. We're bringing the entire community together. I want to paint a vision right now for where we're going to be 10 years from now. Where this movement can bring this community over the next 10 years. We could have globally prominent startup companies lining the 101 corridor. The North Bay can be a leader in job creation rather than a laggard. New graduates from Santa Rosa Junior College, the College of Marin, Sonoma State University, Dominican University of California. 100% of those graduates who want a job here in our community with a local startup company can get them. They can stay in our community. And they stay and they build a more vibrant, younger community. Right? Proud sons and daughters of the North Bay who left to go to Berkeley or Stanford or NYU or the University of Texas. Upon graduation, they want to come home. They want to build their life in the North Bay. They want to come home and work for an exciting local startup company. That is the opportunity we have. 10 years from now, you might be the parents of a 5th grader and a 7th grader in Novato. And guess what? If this movement succeeds, your social network can expand beyond other parents of 5th grader and 7th graders in Novato. Right? You could know people in Tiburon, in Sebastopol, in Healdsburg. Many of those people will have kids of the similar age, but many of those people won't have kids at all. Many of them will be 30 years your senior, 10 years your junior. That is the potential that we have. So that's it, right? Let's go. We have the ability here in this room to all come together and make that vision a reality. We've all taken the first step today in terms of coming here, and now it's up to us on if we want to activate, on how we want to activate, and move from there. So thank you for your time. Thank you for coming to North Bay Next. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.